Good morning, St. John's. I'm going to make this short video to help us to prepare for today's class of Ingwili Digest. Last week, we had the opportunity to look at some basic elements of the Book of Common Prayer. Particularly, we looked at different patterns of prayer that we identified in the Book of Common Prayer and of the prayer book system that help us to get into a rhythm of life and a rhythm of prayer and praise. And we talked particularly about three different large patterns that we can identify in the prayer book. We started talking first of the patterns that we could identify ourselves, things that that came out from our own experience of using the prayer book. And then we talked about three different patterns. The prayer book has a life pattern, it also has a daily pattern, and finally has a church pattern. And what does this mean? Well, there are different services that align to these different sort of three elements or categories of patterns that help us and weave together our lives in prayer. So in the life pattern, of course, we have services like the Thanksgiving for the birth of a child, which is the first service that we have in the prayer book for a person. Fairly uncommon service, but it's there in your prayer books, and we looked at it. And then it goes throughout all the different stages of your life, and you have baptism, and then of course there is communion, and goes through the sacraments, and there is praise for the sick, and prayer for the times of death, all the way to burial. The burial service, which is the same one that we use later for memorial Eucharists. So the life pattern covers your entire life, since even in the occasional services, we can pray and bless a pregnant woman. In the Thanksgiving for the birth of a child, we can do as well. So even since you are in your mother's womb, all the way to when you arrive to the earth at the end of your life. There's also a daily pattern, and we talked about daily prayer. So we talked about the daily office, which is morning prayer, and then noonday prayer, evening prayer, and compline, the 4 moments in life. And we talked how the 4 months during the day that represents life. We spoke how morning prayer talks about rising up or waking up to new life. Noonday prayer is a day of labor and work and exercise. Evening prayer is the sort of the sunset of life, and it also has a focus on other people and what they're experiencing. And finally, compline, which introduces us to the idea of death and dying in the Lord. The daily office runs throughout the day and helps us to keep that pattern as well. And we also talked, of course, of the weekly pattern that we have, right? With the Sunday Eucharist, and then the daily offices throughout the week, and how the daily office takes the place of the Eucharist, or unites Eucharist to Eucharist, Eucharist to Eucharist, Eucharist to Eucharist, and helps us to keep the time sacred throughout the rest of the day. Of the week, sorry. And finally, we have the church pattern, which is the pattern that the wider church has. And we talked about then ordination services. We talked about consecration of a church building. We talked about blessings of different kinds of buildings and different kinds of items. We talked about all the great big corporate church services that we have as well. And then, of course, all these is, if you wish, permeated by seasons, and how the different seasons of the church Here in the church pattern, we also have the calendar of saints, of course, and how the seasons of the church sort of color all these life pattern, and how all this together comes to form or to create what we call sanctification of time. Sanctification of time. These three patterns, the life, the daily, and the church pattern, come together into our lives to help us to sanctify, to consecrate, to make holy all the time of our lives. And the system of the prayer book is to involve us in this experience of prayer throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout our lives, so that we can become holy like God alone is holy. And we do that through this system of prayer. Now, this week, we're going to be looking in a more sort of direct way to different parts of, or different kinds rather, of prayer. And I think it's going to be very interesting. The first question that we're going to be analyzing today is, as you read on the second chapter of Inwardly Digest, is so what kinds of prayers do we have that in the prayer book? What different kinds of prayer? And we're going to dedicate some time to talk specifically about adoration and what it is, what it means. We're going to talk about praise. We're going to talk about oblation. And we'll describe each one of them and where you can find them, particularly in the prayer book. We're going to talk about intercession. We're going to talk about confession. We're going to talk about thanksgiving. I'm missing one. What am I missing? Adoration, oblation, thanksgiving, intercession, confession. Let me go back to the source so I can not make mistakes. I'm not giving you wrong ideas or wrong topics. Oh, of course. How can I forget that one? Petition, where we ask God for things. So we're going to look first at the first kinds of prayer that are in the prayer book: adoration, praise, oblation, intercession, confession, thanksgiving, and petition, and how they meld together in all these different kinds of prayers that help us to, if you wish, be avenues for the different emotions that we experience in life. And then we're going to be looking at other elements of the prayer book worship that are really, really important, and how they also have a role in our worship. We're going to talk about formation. So we started with adoration as like worship in general, including all these 7. We're talking about formation. What is the role of formation in the prayer book? What is the right balance of adoration and formation, if you wish? We're going to talk about repetition. Why do we repeat things so much? What would be the purpose of it? Don't we have anything else to say? And then, of course, we are going to talk about variability. So repetition and, of course, variability. We're going to talk about continuity. Really, really important. And finally, we're going to talk about stability. So all then these 6 principles are going to help us understand some of the other elements that, together with the patterns of prayer, color or mark the perspective of the prayer book. So for today's class, as you prepare for today, I would like you to come with a specific prayer of the Book of Common Prayer that you feel particularly drawn to. So, what is a specific prayer from the prayer book that you have prayed here in church or at home, and that you have been particularly drawn to? Um, you, you can bring one, you can bring two. We're going to talk about them and how they fit into this wider context. So enjoy your reading. Today we are reading a little bit less than last week, so it shouldn't be a big problem. And come ready with also the prayer that you would like to share from your own experience and personal life with the rest of us. Have a good day, and I'll see you in a few hours. Bye.